a captivating podcast that brings together gaming, cannabis, and engaging conversations.
Welcome back, levelers, to another epic episode of High Level Chronicles, where we dive deep into the world of video games, cannabis, and entertainment, while staying as high as our expectations for a good TV show finale. Which, let's be real, it's a bar that's been fumbled more times than a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl. But before we get into that, I'm your host, Chris. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, the man who's probably already halfway through a bag of edibles before we even start recording. What's up, man?
Oh, I'm back from the dead, yo. I have had a week.
Getting over a sickness, huh?
That and a bum knee. I've just been hobbling around and feeling good now. Feeling back, ready to conquer a bag of edibles, some high night, whatever.
I told you, pickleball, man. You got to go take it a little easier when you're playing pickleball. You go fuck up that knee.
Well, I wish I could be like, oh, I was doing something like really cool. And it's like, I woke up one day and I was like, oh, I can't walk. That's weird.
Yeah, that's never a good thing. It's called age.
Yeah.
You're getting there.
It will fuck
It's
you
coming.
up, man.
More than you know. But hey, levelers, we got a dope episode lined up for you today. We're going to dive into the wild world of TV shows, specifically those shows that start off, like absolute fire, but then crash and burn harder than my last attempt at making edibles from scratch. So we'll also shout out some TV shows that actually did stay high quality from start to finish. And of course, we're tying it all back together with our usual vibes, games, ganja, and good times. But first, Paul, it's time for Leveled Up. Levelers, you know the drill. This is where we want to hear what you've been leveling up on in the world of cannabis, gaming, entertainment. What strain you puffing on this week? What game you grinding through? Maybe you've been binging a show while baked out of your mind. I don't know. Paul, kick us off, bro. What's your vibe this week?
Well, I've certainly had some time to level up while just being couch bound. So, and gotten into some new things. So, Civilization 7 has dropped on Steam and still got some bugs to work through. But I've been, get into that, see what's new in the franchise. And what I think is really cool is they're taking user feedback about like what players are having, and then they will make patches based exactly on like that feedback. So each patch, it's a little bit better. It's still got some mechanics to work out, but I think it's going to be a really good time. And then been starting a new sci-fi series called Paradise. So
Paradise.
it is on Hulu, I believe. And it basically, I can't remember if it's from a book or not, but the premise is that 25,000 people are the last people alive on Earth. When I say on Earth, I mean in Earth, because they, nuclear apocalypse happens and they have this huge bunker that simulates like sun and the seasons, and like it's all this kind of like you don't even know they're living in a bunker until like the end of the first episode. So, and then they go back like in time of like what led to it, and they bring the past and present together. So, thought yeah, little interesting sci-fi there. How about you, man?
Are you? It's solid picks. Are you caught up on Severance?
Hell yeah.
We haven't started it yet, so we'll see. But yeah,
I know.
man, like
I know you're waiting until it's all out, and I think that is as noble of you, because this season is fucking bonkers.
And then we're doing the same thing with Yellow Jackets because it just came out again, and not going to watch it until whatever. But for me, man, I've been on that classic White Widow vibe. I leveled up on some of this White Widow last night. We went out and saw Hard Eyes.
How was that?
Man, I know it's supposed to be like the new horror slasher style franchise movie, whatever, but either I was high as hell or they labeled that movie completely wrong, because it was funny as shit.
Intentionally? Or
I guess, I don't know. Like I said, maybe I was just high and just thought some of the shit was funny, and maybe to other people it wasn't. But I mean, the theater laughed out loud, you know what I'm saying, on some times that I was, so
okay.
I assume it was pretty funny. But while we were watching that, we saw a trailer for the movie The Monkey came out. It's all right, but we'll go see that next week. So maybe on the next episode, we'll talk about that. But yeah, bro, we just finished, as far as series and shit, we just finished The Recruit. That was a good one. And now we started diving into Cobra Kai because we waited till it was completely done. And since they just released part 3, which I don't get why they do this shit, but now we're watching it. So
is that like part of a season, or is it like
well, it's the
season
final
3?
season. Cobra Kai is the final season. They split it up into 3 parts.
Okay.
Part 1, part 2. You know how Stranger Things did part 1 and part 2? Season now, same thing. It's fucking stupid.
I think they're trying to figure out what is the best way to keep people engaged. Is it dropping it all at once, week by week, or the kind of like we'll drop half of it or a third of it here and there.
If anybody's like me, we'll wait till they drop it all, and then I'll watch it. Oh, that man been playing some WWE 2K lately, laying the smackdown, pun intended, on people. You know, I think enough about us. What are some of our levelers saying out there?
Gosh, you tuning in to the segment this week. We got Mix Master Greg 98. He says, I've been on a real nostalgia kick lately. For my strain, I've been rocking some White Widow. Oh, there we go. Just like you.
I like it.
That classic hybrid has smooth, it's uplifting, and it just hits for the right chill session.
Yes, sir.
On the gaming side, I've been replaying The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt because, let's be real, the game is like a fine wine. It just gets better with age. And for entertainment, I've been watching The Bear on Hulu. That show is stressful as hell, but the best way possible.
Bear's a great show.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff there. Yeah, Witcher 4 is coming out soon. I'm very excited. And I think there's one more thing I need to do on Witcher 3 is I've been trying to, I'll beat a part of it and then I'll put the game down for a while, knowing I got something to come back to, whenever the mood strikes me.
Nice.
And we got at Stoner Barbie says, I've binged Stranger Things season 4 again while leveling on some orange creamsicle. Those Vecna scenes are wild, especially when you're vibing. The 80s nostalgia and horror vibes are next level, and it's got me hoping that the finale lives up to the hype. You and me both, Stoner Barbie.
All of us. That's this year, apparently.
Yeah, maybe the summer or something.
Waiting. I don't know.
And then last, not least, we got Marcus G. He says, I've been grinding Stellaris, just conquered my first galaxy as a machine empire. I don't know what that means at all, but it sounds dope. The strategic depth paired with Sour Diesel's focus boost made me feel like a galactic mastermind. I'm leveling up my fleets and researching new tech like crazy. I've heard good things about Stellaris. I've never had that one in my queue, though.
That game came out 10 years ago? An old game. Pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, a lot of nostalgia in all of the level up. So definitely nostalgia's a hell of a drug.
Yes, sir. Well, levelers, keep them coming. We want to hear from you. Hit us up, highlevelchronicles.com, or slide into our DMs at HLC Podcast 420. Tell us what you're leveling up on. Who knows? You might be on the next episode. But what do you say, man? Let's roll into the main topic. TV show endings that went from hero to zero, and the rare ones that actually did stay pretty legendary. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think we got a few for both here. So do you want to kick it off?
Well, let's set the stage here. You know what I'm saying? We've all been there. You're deep into a TV show. It's got you hooked. The characters are they're amazing. The plot is fire. And you're thinking, this right here, this is one of the greatest things I've ever watched. And then the finale hits. And it's like someone took all that goodwill, threw it in a blender, hit puree. So why do so many shows start off amazing, then end up hot garbage? It's like, the writers, they run out of steam, or worse, they try to get too clever. You know what I'm saying? Like they think they're going to blow our minds with some twist, but instead it's just a hot fucking mess. And don't even get me started on the shows that leave a million loose ends. It's like they forgot the whole point of storytelling is to, actually resolve the fucking story. And look, Yeah, we're not here just to hate. We're also going to give props to shows that stayed consistent, deliver finales that, left us all satisfied. But first, I say we kick it up, with the Hall of Shame. You know what I'm saying?
Let's do it, man. Yeah.
What do you want to start with? I mean, I know what I would start with, but
I mean, I'm sure that people viewing can have their own, but The Walking Dead for me has to be in the top 3.
really,
Yes.
okay.
So for me, I can sense there's some disagreement, which is all right.
Well, I'm trying to understand. I'm just trying to open my mind and listen to your point of view because I have my opinions. The Walking Dead.
Sure. It was a show that, like, when it came out, like, what, 2011, 2010, something like that. Like, this was one of the biggest shows at the time. It had The Talking Dead, or after you had you watched the episode, immediately on AMC, you would have The Talking Dead. So you would talk about that episode with some of the creators, some of the actors, because people just wanted more and more of it. And rightly so. For me, when I watched season 1, season 2, season 3, getting to season 4, I was like, this is like, no one's ever done a zombie show the way that they've done it.
Right. Okay.
In terms of the character development, in terms of the storyline. And I was like, this is one of the best. Like, I would have talked to my friends, be like, hey, you want to watch Walking Dead tonight? You want to get together? Like, you want to make a thing of it? And people would always be down. But then I don't really know what happened. There seemed to be just complete episodes upon episodes where nothing really happened. And then one by one, characters who started the show or had been very prevalent start to go away, which you expect in a zombie show. Nobody's safe, which, kind of spices up some of the, like, oh my God, is he going to die? Because, who knows? And then I just couldn't watch it anymore. I felt bored. I felt that there's not a lot of characters that I knew anymore. I would miss one and then just not get back into it. And eventually it fell apart for me. And I would see that, like, Rick disappeared on a helicopter. You don't even sure if he's alive or not. Like, I think Carl died at the end. And it started to lose steam for, I think, a lot of the fan base, because they never really were able to wrap it up. They just kind of got these crazy plots, and moved away from the zombies, because the zombies are all like decaying. They weren't what they were in the first seasons, and now it's a different show. And some people like it, maybe, but for me, it just lost sort of what made it a really compelling show in the first place. And I know they had Rise of the Walking Dead and Comic-Cons and stuff. Like, it was a huge thing for a couple years, and then it just, at least for me, kind of changed. And I don't know how long it went on after I stopped watching, but I don't know. But you maybe disagree with that, though.
I don't disagree in a sense. I don't know. And by the way, we are live. I had no intention of going live, but hey, we are live. Brian found out that. But so let me ask this about The Walking Dead before I get. Did you read the comics?
I did not.
Okay. So I really enjoyed The Walking Dead until the last couple seasons, because they kind of veered off and did their own thing with that. But a lot of people quit watching The Walking Dead after the very first episode of season 7. And that is when my boy Negan took out Glenn and Abraham. And that's when a lot of people turned off.
Was that season 7? Because I definitely watched that.
Yes. That was that first episode of season 7.
That's where it started to fall apart for me, too.
But it's not. That was in the comics, and it was even worse than that. So they lived up to the hype. That episode was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
On so many levels, they lived up to the hype, of meeting Lucille. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But a lot of people couldn't handle that. A lot of people, Glenn was loved by many, and people did not take his death well, and that's when they started losing viewers. But it followed the comics. What I didn't like was all the fucking spinoffs with it, to try to follow the story. You know what I'm saying? They had the spinoffs with Carol and Daryl and then Rick. And it was just all these spinoffs, and I didn't even end up watching it all. I watched the regular season just because It started off strong. Like I said, I'm happy. I would never be in my top though as a bad finale. So that's what I'm saying. It would never make my list as like being a bad ending show because it was good. They could have just done it a lot better. Now,
Okay.
with that, I got to start with the King of Disappointment. And that's pun intended. King, Game of Thrones. That is a show that they completely fucked up. Completely fucked up everything on the end. Like you said, you compare it to The Walking Dead, that show started off great, right? Walking Dead or Game of Thrones. Walking Dead, perfect resemblance of how a zombie TV show should start. Take care. Game of Thrones, absolutely amazing show to start. Again, just like you said, compared to Walking Dead, nobody was safe. You never know who the fuck was going to die. People were dying left and right in Game of Thrones. The show was a cultural phenomenon for years.
Absolutely.
Dragons, political intrigue, epic battles, some of the best character development I've ever seen in TV. But the final season, I'll say the final 2 seasons, it's like they took 8 seasons of build-up, 7 or 8, however you want to look at it, and just threw it off a fucking cliff. It was like, now we're done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're
Like Braun's dreams of being a knight. But seriously, what went wrong? Because I remember watching that finale and just feeling like empty. The pacing, they rushed everything. Arius, you know what I'm saying? Like she goes like full Mad Queen in like 2 fucking episodes after years of being this hero. This person that's going to come up, and then Braun becomes king, even though he spent the whole series saying he never wanted to be a ruler. So I don't know. Don't even get me started on Jon Snow. Going back to the wall. What was the point of all that buildup if the ending just like what?
They rushed it together, and they ran out of source material too. They showed why Martin can
George
create.
R.R. Martin
George R.R. Martin
never did
can
finish
create.
it.
Yeah, and much to all of our dismay.
Well, like you said, the writing fell apart. Like, do you remember when they had was it Tyrion Lannister? He says, "Who has a better story than Bronn the Broken?" Literally, fucking anyone.
The rest of the cast.
The guy spent most of the show like this, staring into space. Like he was on some good shit. You know what I'm saying? That motherfucker was leveled up the whole time, just like. I know if you just listen to audio when it comes, you ain't going to see it, but like I'm just staring off into space. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the worst part is the showrunners even admitted that they were just done with the series and wanted to move on to other projects. You know what I mean? Like, bro, you had one fucking job. Finish the fucking story you started. And that goes to the writers. That goes to George R.R. Martin. That goes to all of them. They had plenty of time to finish what they started. They chose not to. And it's us fans that felt it. You know what I'm saying? Do you remember the petitions to remake the final season?
Yes.
Like, there was petitions. There were memes. I mean, it was brutal.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they run off though to make the Star Wars sequels that were?
What? I don't even remember what they were up to, but it was. Yeah, they just were done. They wanted to move on, and I hate that's what unfortunately happens with a lot of these in the list. They need to move on. They've been doing it too long, whatever it may be. They're like, oh, we just want to move on. This one, you can say that because they did, but they also George R.R. Martin failed them. There was no story, so they had to come up with something, and they were like, fuck it, let's just throw this out there and let's move on. But they could have done so. I mean, I could have wrote better. I don't even fucking know anything about writing a fucking script, but I could have done better than that. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it sometimes, man. Like, I just don't. Some of these shows.
We had in my office a pool of like who's gonna die, who's gonna live, who's gonna be king at the end, and then we all like place bets. Like, it was a huge thing, and the entire last season was like, I don't really understand what's happening. There's a lot of like dialogue where the people are trying to wrap up their loose ends with like different characters, which is like not like fine, but whatever. And then they gallivant through the entire 7 Kingdoms in like 2 episodes. Boom, we killed the Night King. Boom, we raided King's Landing.
The Night King that was this, I mean, I don't know. Arya spent all this time training to be this amazing stealth assassin. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then like, oh no, just jump and stab. It's done. Could have done anything different with her. And you could have done anything different with any of them.
Wow. Right. All the characters had become something, and it would be nice to see like, what that meant for, for when everything's on the line and in the end.
But Game of Thrones
Spoiler.
isn't the only offender, right?
Oh, for sure. One, and I kind of feel for this cast because I think that they're good people. They had a great series run in the 2000s. Hilarious show, Scrubs. Not the TLC song, but
Never mind then.
that was again a show. I don't know if I would say it was on the level of Game of Thrones or Walking Dead. It was sort of just kind of this network show, but like it definitely had a following, like to this day, and great series, first to the second to last, had development and, great writing, great chemistry, dynamics. But the last season, studio was pretty much done with it. They wrapped it up. I don't remember how the second to last season ended, but it was like fine.
I've only watched the shows here and there. I never followed it through, so I don't really know this. But it was just one of those just good shows to watch,
Right, yeah. Something you can really vibe to. And then they made a last season where they're all teaching med school. It's like years in the future, and like they have to explain things that have happened during the time that they were off and who's doing what now. And a lot of it was just explaining it, kind of like an epilogue, but as a series. And I did for about like why they did that, and basically the two stars, Donald Faison and Zach Braff, had money, and they're like, why don't we just do another year so that, all of the people that we, all the people from the catering to the writers, to the producers, actors, like, why don't we just ensure they're all employed for another year, and let's just do a show because we enjoy doing it. And I can't really fault them for that. I understand, but it does take the series that I and, a lot of other people like really enjoyed, and it just adds this very weird non sequitur. Hey, here's like 5 years down the road, we're all doing different things now, but we're going to do some gags from the past and kind of put it together in this like clunky series that to me kind of taints it a little bit, but it I can understand trying to be like, hey, let's just like, we like what we're doing, we like who we work with, we're all friends with these people, so let's
9 seasons.
do another one.
So it
Sounds about right. Yeah,
9 seasons, because I remember something like, I think it was only supposed to go 6 seasons. Like that was supposed to be at the end of the show, and then they added on. Of course, money always comes into play. But they added on a few more, but then, I don't really, like I said, I only saw shows here and there. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't tell you. It was just a funny ass show. Like, just funny and just a good watch. Like I said, a good something to vibe out to and whatever, chill.
Yeah, and it just, to me, it's just they tried to wrap it together with like a kind of an epilogue. Where are they now? And I think that was a swing and a miss there, but yeah, they kept it on for another year.
You know what else was a swing and a miss? How I Met Your Mother. Did you watch that?
I watched a good amount of it.
The show was good. Just like, for so long. Witty, heartfelt, just the right amount of cheesy, so, whatever. But that finale, again, they spent, 9 seasons with that one too, building up to the mother that everybody wanted, and then they kill her off in like 5 fucking minutes, just so Ted can end up with Robin, who he had already moved on from like, 1 million times. So it's like the writers, again, forgot everything they had established about the characters. And the worst part is they filmed the ending way back in season 2. So like they were locked into this terrible idea no matter how the story evolved. It's like we're so committed to the twist that they didn't care if it made sense. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about the twist. It's about respecting the audience, the fans, investment. We spent years with these characters. Like I said, not just with How I Met Your Mother, Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, Scrubs. You spend years with characters, in the final, they're just like, nah, forget all that. Here's a cheap cop out, like getting a bad high. You're expecting something great, and instead you're just left with a fucking headache.
Yeah, I just kind of catch the reruns, and I never followed it from like, well, shit, who is the mother? And like, how did they meet? But I did hear that I didn't remember exactly what it was until you just said it, but it's kind of lackluster where you get invested into a story, into characters, into how they grow and change and develop. And it does kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth when you look at, you're like let down at the end because you put investment in it, time, maybe even some emotion.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that probably one of the biggest shows of all time had such a bad ending that on a similar show, they felt the need to correct it. And we'll get into the second one later, but the first would be Seinfeld, where
You're showing age here. Woo! Okay, we're going back.
Now, I did watch it as a much younger guy, but
he said again, Seinfeld. Holy shit.
Seinfeld.
It's like on the same lines of Frasier.
Hear me out.
Seinfeld was a great show. I'm just saying, we're showing age. Half the people are going, what the fuck is Seinfeld? What is this?
Wait till I talk about Dallas,
I can hear that theme song right now.
I probably won't get into it, but
I can hear that theme song right now playing in my mom while she's sitting there watching TV. It's taking me back now. That was the 80s, bro.
Yeah, late 70s to early 90s, yeah. But anyway, Seinfeld, it was, I think they had the series finale broadcasted on Times Square. And there's just a still that I saw of Times Square being totally silent, totally motionless. And it's just hundreds of people you're looking up into this big screen watching the last episode of Seinfeld. Where I don't know how, I'm sure there's a way that you could end that in a way where that's like agreeable for everyone, but it's a hard ask when you don't really root for the cast. And I don't mean like people didn't like Jerry or that Julia Louis-Dreyfus and the rest of them, Elaine,
Kramer, George. Come on, man, you got to remember the name.
Well, I'm saying people enjoyed the acting, but they didn't enjoy the character, or not enjoy them, but they didn't like root for them. Like, oh man, I really hope Jerry makes it one day, because I know that he does. Like, he has a whole fucking show.
I need to ask them before you keep going, but because I vaguely remember, but wasn't the ending like they were on trial for something? And
they were all
they were sentenced to prison, and that was it, and like that's all it was.
Yeah, they all the last scene of the show, they're all in like this like very small holding cell, and they're in there because it's like a take on like Good Samaritan laws, where it's like, oh, we all saw someone getting mugged, and they all laughed at it, and that's not actually how Good Samaritan laws work, but they say that, oh, we got arrested for not being a good Samaritan and helping someone who's getting arrested. And which I thought is a weird kind of take, but maybe it jives with, some of the weirdness of Seinfeld, but they're all just sort of in jail. And so I don't know if people were like, oh, that's unfair, or that's a weird way to get there, or, maybe they deserve, their comeuppance, but not in that way. I don't know. It just sort of, it's like this huge, groundbreaking new show, and they all just sort of, how does it end? How are they going to wrap up 9 or so seasons of one of the highest grossing TV shows of all time? All just going to be in jail.
I remember that show had a lot of controversy over one episode. I remember Kramer. It was an episode where he burns and steps all over the Puerto Rican flag. And that caused all kinds of shit. It was Puerto Rican Day or something like that on the episode. I vaguely remember. Seinfeld, I haven't watched that in so long, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of iconic episodes. The puffy shirt, shrinkage, I don't want to say it was a bad show because that's not true. But, and I don't think any of the shows that we've said here today are bad shows unless, they're so tainted by how they ended that it leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
You want to talk about a bad taste?
Tell me about bad taste.
Lost. Let's talk about Lost. Did you watch Lost?
Could not get into it, but okay, I know it was a phenomenon.
That show was
the 2000s.
it was definitely a masterclass in mystery and intrigue until it wasn't. The finale tried to tie everything together with this vague, like pseudo spiritual explanation about the island and the afterlife. It really just left more questions than answers. Yeah, and look, I get, like, not like every mystery needs to be solved, but when your whole show is built on the questions, laws, you got to deliver something satisfying. You know what I mean? And instead, we got a bunch of characters hugging in a church, and I'm like, cool, but what about the polar bears, the smoke monster, the numbers? And it's another show they they felt like they just gave up. And that's the theme here. I feel like it's a theme we're going on. It's just giving up. These shows start strong because the writers have a clear vision. Then they either run out of ideas or they get too attached to their original plan, even when it doesn't fit anymore. And it's like, you got to adapt, man. You know what I'm saying? Be like a good fucking strain. Flexible, balance. White Widow, always delivering. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Lost, so they, eventually they were all just dead. They were in that, balance between life and death before they went on. And that was it. They were living through their trials and tribulations. You know what I'm saying?
I did not know that. Okay.
That's what it was.
I felt like one guy got out and then it was like trying to figure out what happened between the one guy getting out and...
One guy was actually alive, didn't die, the rest did. But it's like...
Okay.
So you got to think, like, did you watch Manifest?
Yeah.
So Manifest, that was sort of the same premise, essentially. As I was watching Manifest, I thought for sure this is going to be like Lost. Like, they're dead, right? And Manifest ended in the same exact sense as Lost, except they weren't dead. They got their life back. But they got to see what it would have been like if they would have. You know what I mean? Like, it was a whole different, same concept, but either way. Lost is just one of those.
I didn't know that was how that went out. I got maybe 3 seasons into that, but...
Again, great show. There's nothing wrong with it. If you haven't seen it, it's still great to watch and go through. It's just some shows you expect more. You know what I'm saying? When you really dive, just like all the ones we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
I mean,
yeah.
Right.
And I guess a trope, I'm not really going to talk about Dallas, but a trope I think that was born out of that show. Because 78 to 91, I barely was alive for the last little bit of it. And I was doing some reading on it, but a show can't be bad if it's 14 seasons. And it does look like it changed a lot. It kept people guessing. But at the end of it, it started a very lazy writing trope that ends not only some series, but some seasons, some episodes, where it was all just a dream. And I think there was a season of like Roseanne where the whole season was just like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy if that happened? I just dreamed it, but it didn't actually happen. And so to me, it's like, why does that seem like in the acceptable way to end anything? Because you're basically saying, hey, you just invested hours on, whatever platform or network or, in this work of art, and it didn't, like, it doesn't happen, like, because it's a TV show, but you're like, that's really how you're gonna treat the audience, is saying that, hey, this whole thing just didn't happen and it was just somebody's imagination, and like that doesn't have anything or if you had a bunch of like plot holes, you're just like, hey, well, it doesn't really matter because it didn't happen, it was a dream, ha ha ha, anyway, good night. Right. Watch something else. And so there's been a number of shows where it's like, oh, isn't that such a clever way to end? And it's like, no, it's lazy. It's just, hey, we don't know how to explain all these different things, so we're just going to say it was a dream. It was a crazy dream,
I got one for you that goes with that. And it's not really the dream part, but just one of those, the ending. I mean, and this one might be controversial because they are getting ready to release a prequel to this show that I am actually looking forward to, but Dexter. Do you remember Dexter? Did you watch Dexter?
Well, yeah, it was a workout show for a bit until becoming unwatchable.
Bro, it was an amazing premise. Serial killer working as a blood splatter analyst. Is that what he was for the police?
Yeah.
So
only
genius.
kill the bad people, like.
But then they give us a fucking lumberjack ending. Like, bro, the writers, they had to have been high out of their minds. He's like, fakes his death, moves to the woods, and starts a new life chopping logs. What kind of witness protection plan is this? and they fucking did Deb dirty. Her entire arc deserved a much better ending than what they gave her. But they did try to fix Dexter, if you remember, with that Dexter New Blood. But the damage was done. You know what I'm saying? They released that new series.
Have the sequel, yeah.
The new series, like I said, coming out is Dexter Original Sin. Is that, I think, is what it's called. So let's see if they do any better on their third go round. But I don't think that comes out. Wait, it is out. It just came out in December, I think. That the new ones.
It's hard because I do have a Paramount Plus account, which is what Dexter Original Sin is on. But you need like a Paramount Plus extra to watch it or something. It was the craziest thing I've seen because I was like, weird. All right, we're paying for this. And it had a little lock icon under the Dexter show when it didn't have that for streaming now.
Else. You got to pay for a premium and then pay for another premium.
Yep.
Either way, man, I don't know. Do you have any other ones that didn't stick? Because if not,
no, but we can switch gears to
let's take
I don't want to be a hater all night.
Like I said, let's get away from that negativity because there are some shows that did get it right. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. But let's cleanse our palate. Get some shows that stay at a high quality. You know what I'm saying? From start to finish. Where do you want to start? What do you want to start with?
So one thing that, I guess to bring it back to the Seinfeld. So Seinfeld was a bad show, or not a bad show, good show with a tough ending, but Curb Your Enthusiasm, I think, from start to finish, chef's kiss.
Okay.
And so I think part of what gave it success for that is like the show goes on for like 20 years in real time.
That is Larry David, right? Mm-hmm. Larry David was in that, yeah.
Yeah, so Larry David, the creator of Seinfeld.
Ted Danson.
Was in it. He was great.
I never watched the whole thing through, but again, I've watched the episode. So
I don't know if I've watched every episode, but I think part of their genius is that they'll just take off. Like, we don't really have any ideas this year, so we won't make a show. And you could do that because it was on HBO at the time, and HBO was like, all right, fine. Like,
what year was
then they come back 2 years later, 3 years later, and it's fresh
early
again.
2000, right?
It started in like 2000, 2001 and ended like last year or 2 years ago.
It went for like 12 years, right? Something like that, 12 or 13 years.
From 2000 to like 2022, I think. But
JB Smooth was in that show.
JB Smooth. Yeah.
I love JB Smooth.
So many great characters, so many great actors, a little bit of Seinfeld recall where they would get the actors in some of the episodes. But the way that the series actually ends is Larry David's in jail. But then because of some sort of legal snafu, he gets released. And Jerry comes and tells him the news of, hey, you were released. And then they even make a little pause where they look at each other and they're like, this is how we should have ended your show. And Jerry's like, that would have been so much better. So they make an acknowledgement that the Seinfeld finale could have been better. And they do it with him getting out on like a legal technicality or something, which is, I think, just very on brand for them. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then they even admit, hey, this wasn't great. We're going to do it better in like a Seinfeld-esque kind of show, but in Los Angeles. So I think that was just great. It's kind of like Seinfeld, but if like Seinfeld was allowed to say real words instead of just having a TV PG.
Limited. Yep.
Right.
That's so like WWE or Raw now.
Exactly.
Live, new game. Like it. What
about you?
Oh man, I think the first one mine, I'd have to go Breaking Bad. That'd be my chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
That show is the gold standard for consistency. From the first episode to the last episode, it's a masterclass in storytelling. Like the finale, Felina, I think was the name of that finale. Perfection. Again, Walter White's story ended exactly how it should. He gets his redemption, you know what I'm saying? But he also pays the price. No loose ends, no cop-outs, just a satisfying conclusion. And then what I love about Breaking Bad is it never lost sight of its core themes. You know what I'm saying? Like consequences, morality, the cost of ambition, the finale. It just tied it all together without, feeling forced like we did with some of those. And the final shot, dude, of Walt just lying in the lab with the camera pulling up. Money.
I watched all of Breaking Bad in 23 13 or 14. It had just ended. And so I pulled a Chris where I watched probably the entire series in maybe 2 or 3, 4 weeks or something. And I was just like, this show's amazing. And I couldn't stop watching it. And I was, living on my own at the time. And I
go
just
watch Better Call Saul then.
Well, that actually brings us to one of mine because so Vince Gillian, creator of Breaking Bad, it also does Better Call Saul.
Now, wait.
Yeah.
I have to ask because you brought up. Did you see they're releasing a new series?
No.
It's with the blonde. Logical Thriller. It's going to be on Apple TV. It's coming out this year.
What?
Announced it. It's a whole. He's been working on it for So you just to look it up. I don't. There's no name. Can't tell you. There's not really. He's being so secretive about everything, but it is releasing this year. And so all they're saying is it's a psychological thriller, and she's the lead.
Her character.
So that's what you see what I'm saying. So we have Walter White as a lead. We have Saul Goodman as a lead. Now we get her as a lead. Like I think this is gonna be a good one. It has to live. Either way. I'm not trying to take away what you were going to say, but you mentioned the name, and I just had to ask if you had seen that they. I just saw it yesterday. Really literally just saw it yesterday, and told my wife about it, and she was like, "So can't wait." That should be a good one. We'll see.
Yeah, but we'll see if we make it 3 for 3. So we had the Vince Gillian Breaking Bad, and then now Better Call Saul, which came out I think a few years after Breaking Bad. But to me, it takes one of the characters of the series. Like I know it's like technically a spinoff, but I did not see spinoffs doing as well as Better Call Saul did because they take one of the most creative characters in television, Saul Goodman or Jimmy. Trippin' Jimmy, and they go through his like arc, and they do it just in the Breaking Bad way where they kind of give a little bit of future or present, depending on how you want to look at it, of where he's at. He's working at not a Krispy Kreme, but a Cinnabon.
Yeah. He's the manager, right?
He's like a manager of a Cinnabon. And then, you have to ask yourself, well, how did he get here? He's like this high-powered lawyer. He's conning all these very intelligent people. And then he's a Cinnabon owner some years in the future. So, how did he get there? And you get the story where, him before Breaking Bad, before he was a lawyer, and then he gets his degree. It's a whole conflict with his brother for a few seasons, and
such a great show. Great show.
Oh yeah. And then you see that this guy, because you kind of feel sorry for him in a little weird way, and he goes straight. And he's working at the Cinnabon. He has a heart attack. And eventually he's like, I can't be running from all the things that have led me to a very cold, meaningless, lonely life. Well, I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's
too late, man. These are old,
that's true. If you haven't seen it by now,
there's nothing today we're talking about that hasn't been out for years.
That's true,
essentially.
And so he ends up in jail, which is a good ending for Better Call Saul, not so much for Seinfeld. And he pays the price, and Rhea, what was her name? The female lead, she, is like, hey, I'll get you legal advice. I'll, work on your case. And he's like, no. He's like, I've always gotten breaks. I've always been able to skirt around. I've always been able to have people, get the, benefit of the doubt. And he's just like, I'm just here to do my time now.
You're talking about Rhea Seehorn, who played
Rhea
Kim.
Seehorn. Yeah,
that was Kim. Mm-hmm. But that Rhea Seehorn's the lead in his new one. So I can't wait. I like that he's given all these smaller like their own thing. This isn't related to Breaking Bad in any way, like Better Call Saul, or even El Camino. Watch it, do. Yeah, I'm glad that he's using people. It's sort of like a lot of the show, like a lot of the Tyler Perry stuff, shows and movies. He uses the same people, so I like seeing him. I like seeing her getting a bigger role now, though, because she was really good at her as Kim. You know what I'm saying? Like really good.
Yeah, she had a great performance as well.
Yeah, definitely interested in the new one, of course. You know what else gave me chills? Or, another show that would give you a great one that stayed consistent, not as flashy as Breaking Bad, but just as impactful? The Wire. Did you ever watch The Wire?
Love The Wire.
The finale doesn't try to, wrap everything up, in like a neat little bow, because that's not how the world works. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But it still feels complete. Every
did.
character got their moment. The cycle of the system keeps going. That was another great one. Another great series that.
I lived in Baltimore for a number of years. And to me, it was like, I think it ends just kind of like, all the violence, all the dysfunction, and the last scene is very calm, just sort of another day in Baltimore, sun's rising up. And I was like, damn, it's like that's just, it's so simple, but so fitting as well.
Yep. Great show. Great show. But I'm going to tell you something, though, before we move on to your next one.
Yeah.
I just watched Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul for the first time in 2023.
First time ever?
First time ever.
Well, damn. You were in for a treat then, Dad. Yeah.
We waited well after everything was said and done. We just watched it. I don't know why before I thought it wouldn't be a show I'd be interested in, but man, we loved it. My wife, it was great. So just wanted to say that, throw that out there. That's why it's so fresh in my mind right now. The ending, all that stuff is just like, we just watched it a year or two ago.
Well, yeah, never too late. It ages very well.
Definitely. Never too late to watch at all.
One last one that
Okay.
I think is the most recent thing that I've watched on this list, where every once in a while you get like a piece of cinema, but it's on TV. And for me, that was HBO's Succession.
Dude, that's an amazing show.
Yes, it is.
Fucking Tom.
Just a complete masterpiece from season 1
that
to
show's
season
great.
4.
I didn't even think about that show. Oh my God, that is a great show.
Because it's more recent, right? We're talking about things like kind of from the 90s.
I'm thinking
and 2000s.
of like classic shit. I have classic shit all in my head for this episode.
Right. Because there's a lot of really good shit out there right now that hasn't ended. And I know
That just ended. Last year, right?
Last year. Oh my God. My wife and I were obsessed.
Yeah, my wife's crazy. She's crazy about it.
And just I think the intro music won an award.
Bro, everything's amazing about
it.
It's like
symphony
it's
level.
all coming back now again just because it just ended. But it wasn't on my mind, and now it's all I'm thinking about is from the music to the character. Again, the character depth of everything was amazing with Succession. Absolutely on my list.
How they do it.
That should be on one of the top of my list because that was a great show.
They go through the different characters more in depth with each season, and then they bring them together.
I love the fucking ending.
The ending is so great because Tom,
of all fucking people,
but like it's so deserving because none of the kids should get it, And if it's gonna go to anyone,
kids,
give it to Tom. Like I think the two brothers are like fist fight in the last season or last episode because they're going for it, and it's like no, you are all stunted adults, children, and it goes to not a good person, not someone who's very savvy, but fucking Tom.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Absolutely great. And I got one last one, man. We can't forget. A classic. Like I said, that's what's been on my mind, but Sopranos.
Now I want to hear this because that's going to be very controversial.
It is,
but I'm willing to hear you out though.
It's now I know, like you said, I know the finale is divisive because the abrupt, cut to black. You know what I'm saying? But for me, it's genius. It's not about giving you all the answers. You know what I'm saying? Think of the why. It's about leaving you with the tension and the uncertainty of Tony's life. That's the point. But I'll admit, like you said, I was a little pissed when it first aired. I thought my cable went out.
A lot of people did, yeah.
But over time, because it's been a while, I've came around to it. You know what I'm saying? It's bold as fuck for the time it was in. It fits the show's vibe. And honestly, after seeing so many finales that we've talked about to try too hard to explain everything, I appreciate the restraint of Sopranos and that ending, leaving it up to you. That is what separates great from garbage. You can't just start strong and fizzle out. You got to stay leveled up for the whole fucking journey. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And I think a lot of the endings that we're saying were amazing were simple or they fit the show. You know, they weren't something out of left field. They weren't being too cute. They weren't falling into some sort of contrived trope. It was just like,
Exactly.
you know,
That's
cut
the
to
key,
black.
right?
Yeah.
Knowing when to explain and when to leave things open. The shows that respected their audiences and stayed true to their vision. Thank you. They didn't just throw in, you know, twist for the sake of that, you know, the shock value. You know, they earned their endings. So, well said, bro. Speaking of staying leveled up, you got any final thoughts?
I think we're living. It's hard to pick some TV shows that are currently still out that just seem to be so good. Like we're talking about Severance, and
we'll be talking about how Stranger Things ends, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What else is it? Oh, you know what else is ending this year that's going to be better be good?
What's that?
Fucking Handmaid's Tale. Better be fucking good. That final season. Oh my god!
Started that again. Yeah.
They just released the trailer. If you haven't seen it, the trailer just came out for the final season.
I had not seen the final season, but I've watched some of the show, and I was like, that is
bro. The show
wild.
Is amazing. I didn't think I'd like it. My wife didn't think she'd like, because she's very for women. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And she loves it. She loves the show. It's an amazing show. Another show that I'm hoping we're going to have to do this episode again at the end of the year to be able to talk about what failed this year and what lived up to it. There's
Absolutely.
Be a lot of shows. There's shows we're probably not even thinking of right now that are in their final season. You know what I'm saying? That are like in the final season that I'm not thinking of.
Yeah.
Like the only two that come to mind are The Handmaid's Tale and Stranger Things. But I mean, Arcane's over.
Yeah, that was a 2-season show.
Yeah, that's
so you know. So like, you know, I thought
I'll find out. I'm only on episode 3 of the last season, so 3 or 4.
I won't say much though, but I think it's good.
That just released this year, so I'm going to wait. We'll
last.
talk about it at the end of this year with
Yeah.
the others. We'll talk about it. We'll throw it in with the rest of these. You know.
Yeah, but it's a lot of good stuff right now that's just in their first, second, third season. You know, we'll see if Severance holds up. I'm gonna be really upset if Severance just starts to be something that it's not and lose me and just kind of end with a whimper instead of a bang. But like I don't see that. I think I think I've said it before. Yeah, I believe we're living in the golden age of television right now.
You know, I saw somebody on Everything
quality.
Frederick was throwing a watch party for Severance.
I totally believe that. It's if you haven't watched Severance, get on that. Like that is.
And I know this episode is going to come
right
out. This episode is going to come out after it's over. So if you're hearing this, you're not watching live right now. That's why we're talking. You know, by the time this comes out, Severance will already be done, and we'll know. So again, we can talk about
perfect time. If you're hearing about
that's what I'm
Severance
saying.
for the first time right now, 2 seasons available to stream. So
Yeah.
you know that at least I haven't seen all episode 2 yet, but banger after banger. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, I think that's all I got though.
Well said, Paul. All right, levelers. That's going to do it for this episode of High Level Chronicles. We dove deep into the world of TV shows endings. You know what I'm saying? The ones that broke our hearts, the ones that left us furious, and the rare gems that did stay legendary. If there's one takeaway from today, it's this. Great storytelling is about consistency. Respect the audience and knowing when to stick the landing. Whether it's Game of Thrones, fumbling the ball, or, Breaking Bad scoring a touchdown, these finales remind us that endings do matter. And just like in gaming, cannabis, it's all about the journey and the destination. You can't just have a fire strain with no payoff. It's got to deliver from start to finish. So levelers, keep chasing those high quality experiences. Don't settle for none of this hot fucking garbage. As always, we want to hear from you. Hit us up, highlevelchronicles.com, or on your favorite social media at HLC Podcast 420. Tell us your favorite or least favorite TV show endings. Let us know what you're leveling up on this week. We might just shout you out on the next episode. Until then, stay leveled up. We are out.
Thanks for listening to High Level Chronicles. See you next time.